New Age pitfalls and how to avoid them. That's the download for today's transmission. It's the download that I received this morning. And I want to share also that this is information that I'm receiving from my own field of awareness. And that our fields, our bioenergetic operating system, our field actually holds so much information from many, many, many previous or concurrent lifetimes. And that my intention for this video is that it help you to decode the divine and the inverted matrix, as well as the fragmented coding within those matrices, for yourself, for your highest good, so that you can decode this for yourself, because there is no spiritual teacher or guru or coach that can do it for you. You have to do it for you. And it's important that you do, because this grounds and anchors sovereignty into your being. So may this serve you in the highest and best way. New Age pitfalls and how to avoid them. Let's get into it. Pitfall number 1, curses, spells, and then in parentheses we can put devices, implants, objects, etheric objects, etc., etc., etc. Basically what curses and spells are walls that are built up within our field. We experience them as walls. They're basically just vibrating words that were implanted, so to speak, into our field or sent to us specifically, that are designed to create walls so that we cannot pass over certain thresholds, may make certain mile markers in life even more hard, more difficult to get past. They can make things like ring past knots, even these big monumental things that we cannot pass through. So they create walls for us so that we cannot pass over and pass into sovereignty, liberation, decoding the matrix for what it is and seeing it for what it is. It's a very commonplace thing, because if we speak ill of someone, or if we have a thought that is negative and we project it outwards and it sticks into someone's field, and then it can start generating things. And these can be unconscious, they can be conscious, and they can come in many, many different ways. So that's pitfall number 1. I'm going to say here, challenges, all of these pitfalls are things that were already here, already been experienced by humans, but now we're beginning to see it for more of what it is, what it actually is, so that we can actually decode it and we can pass those codes of decoding on to the next generations so that they can see clearly. So number 2 is distortion and illusion. And I've been asked to describe 2 things here. So the first one being distortion. I'm using distortion in a very specific way, in a very specific definition. Distortion is, to me, any distortion. You can be distorted towards the light. You can be distorted towards the dark. You can also be distorted towards the middle path, which is a third distortion. Many, many different distortions, right? So for example, for me, the path that I've chosen is the middle path, the neutral path, that reconciles both light and dark with a distortion towards service to others. And so I'm using distortion in that way so that you can understand, because those distortions then projected outwards create illusion. They create veils for the perception. By being able to see through that, to begin to see through these veils, we can begin to deconstruct and decode these different matrices. Okay, and the second thing I was called to kind of explain is 4 different things, right? So we have true light, false light, then we have true dark and false dark. I'll give you a minute to kind of wrap your head around that. So from the distortion of light and dark, we have true light, we have false light, and then from dark, we have true dark and false dark. So from those 2 distortions, we have these other distortions. And from these 4 distortions actually perpetuate many other multitudes of distortions. But from these 4 distortions, we're going to work from there, okay? I'm going to help you to understand my understanding of it so that you can integrate your own understanding of this. So we're going to go with true light first. True light is that which orients you to your true self, your true essence, your higher self, your source, your true expression, your authentic expression. This is being anchored in both love and both light, right? The light of the crown, the light of wisdom, and also the grounding of the heart. Humans, we have such a unique ability to feel everything. And so now with the heart, we have to learn how to open the heart and feel with the heart and anchor wisdom within the heart, or with the heart. We have to learn to marry the 2 together. This is true light, right? This is being able to reflect our own light, to be in our own center. We're not absorbing, we're not consuming light, the light of others. We're radiating our own light. Okay, now false light. What is false light? False light is associated with Lucifer and Luciferian beings, Luciferian teachings, and this is basically a distortion towards only light. A lot of people in the spiritual community have mistaken false light for true light and go into this mentality of it's all love and light, it's all rainbows. That's true from the highest perspective. It is all love, it is all light. However, in this dimension, in this reality, we have to learn to discern what's there. We have to learn what's there so that we can understand how to navigate through it. So we have Lucifer, Luciferian teachings, Luciferian beings that project the false light. It's basically a false projection of true light. It's false light masquerading as true light. Now, true dark. What is true dark? True dark is consumption. True dark is ignorance. It's shrouding everything in darkness. It's consuming the light of others because they don't have their own light. They do, but they've forgotten it. This is one of the service to self distortions. And service to self is not a bad thing in and of itself. I serve myself all the time, but I serve myself with the intention to serve others in the highest and best way. Do you see how I'm using and utilizing each distortion to distort towards service to others? So true dark is consumption and service to self. Now, what is false dark? False dark is actually really fun to me. I'll tell you why. Because false dark is actually true light that has been shrouded and covered in fear, in darkness, by service to self factions, beings, consciousnesses, and energies, so that they could keep this information to themselves. It's actually true light, true wisdom being shrouded, being hidden. This is why or this is one of the reasons why I believe a cult is called a cult, because occult means hidden. It's literally been hidden from us. Because this information, this false dark information, has been hidden from us because it's actually true light, because it would actually help us to decode the matrix, the false matrix, the divine matrix, and it would help us to decode the divine fragmented matrix that actually helps us to unlock the different codes for ascension. So these are very, very important points to understand. And you can just see within these explanations and definitions how these different distortions are then projected out into reality. And it creates mass confusion, which then perpetuates all of the chaos that's going on. It's important that we understand these different orientations, and then we orient ourselves accordingly to how we prefer. Number 3 is really, really simple. It's energy hijacking and compromising of our energy field. And that is, I spoke about this in my last video, which I will link at the top of this video. And basically, energy hijacking happens in many, 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 many different ways. And energy hijacking is basically occurs because we have blind spots within our field, right? Are you aware of everything that's in your field, all of the information that's floating in your field? If not, that will show you just one blind spot that you have within your field. So hijacking happens when we have trauma, when we have belief templates or beliefs, basically beliefs that are not ours, that were given to us, that are not actually even resonant with our true expression. These create blind spots because they're unawarenesses. They're places within our field that we have not become fully sovereign in. And what we're looking for is to bring sovereignty in. So sovereignty happens when we become aware of our shit, when we do our shadow work, when we do the self-reflection, internal work, when we look and we feel, we allow ourselves to feel those uncomfortable emotions and states of being that we were conditioned to not feel as kids. There's another blind spot. Number 4 is spiritual ego, spiritual superiority. This is actually information that I've received within this download, was that spiritual ego was one of the biggest downfalls of Lemuria, of Atlantis, because we weren't fully grounded, fully centered, because we weren't taught that. We were missing some information. And so spiritual ego, basically all spiritual ego is learning all of these high spiritual truths, and you're like doing the stuff, and it's without doing the work, without doing the internal reflection that anchors us back into the heart, that anchors us back into compassion, back into empathy, back into love, light, love combined. Light, right? Light, the light of information combined with the heart. Spiritual ego is learning all of that wisdom without grounding it, without integrating it, and then casting judgment on someone else because they're not doing the same thing that you're doing. They're not as enlightened as you. And it's casting judgment on another in a negative sense to make yourself feel better, to put yourself on that pedestal. And that's spiritual ego. So this is one of the greatest downfalls in the spiritual community that keeps the spiritual community down. And this is also a great example of another blind spot and distortion within the spiritual community, within spirituality, within religion itself, that causes the downfall of a human, okay, of humanity. How do we avoid these things? How do we avoid having these experiences? I will tell you, you don't. I will tell you very bluntly, you don't. This is Earth. We are here to master all of the experiences that we are given, that we are brought to, because they are opportunities to learn, to ground, to anchor into sovereignty, into empowerment, into love, light, love, the combination of wisdom and heart in one. We don't avoid it. However, paradoxically, the way that we kind of dig ourselves out of having those experiences is doing the internal work. Again, this video is basically relaying how important it is to do your internal self-reflection, healing work, and to do it on a daily basis. For me, it's a daily thing because I'm constantly coming into more information, and that helps me, that serves me in my highest and best way. How are you served in the highest and best way through doing your work? Is that daily? Is that writing things out daily? Because I found that that helps too. How we avoid this is being open to having the experience of it and then understanding it with an open heart, a curious heart, without closing down in fear. Allowing ourselves to have an experience and then understanding it and then integrating it. It's important to master the internal energies, because it's in mastering the internal energies within us that we are then allowed and granted and realize that's how we master and create our reality externally. So funny answer, we don't avoid it, but we also avoid it paradoxically by doing the work to become aware, to become sovereign, to become empowered in our own field, and become masters once again on this planet Earth, the school of mastery. And now I'm going to provide a light language transmission that will help you decode the divine matrix and the fragmented matrix for yourself. And this is going to work in tandem with your choices. So you are responsible for unlocking this for yourself. However, these codes coming in will help you as you make the proper choices for yourself, okay? May this serve in the highest and best way. You are sakashikwa and zuwa sat. No wasishikatikir no anana sukushika. You are asishiko anana wasat to wasat. Kia wasakashkwana, the wada the wasat the wana wasakachkua anata wasat. Kiwana na wahasachika the wana na wasashika na wa. Shikawana na sukushkitika sa mwana na sukushki. Kia so anana shikuata da anana wara. Yo sa wana sikshkua na asikachkuana. Kia asukushki ya ha wasa. Ya wa da wasikshkua da wara the guara. Bringing clarity. Bringing clarity and heart together Tiwasa nakutu wasa Shiguana nasako shikata no no wara sakashkwada hasa to wana na hawana na hasako. Jawa. It is your choice, and it is your responsibility to unlock the codes. The codes are now with you. It is your responsibility going forward to choose for yourself to decode or not. For you are sovereign, and this is your remembrance of sovereignty. Shikwa nanana ku ahasa kashika wana ana 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 Tiguana maasaka waha asakashi. Taking a deep breath, letting that anchor into your being, letting these codes unravel the mystery that is you. And also remember that mystery is part of the magic. It is the paradox. That is life. That is you. Unfolding, ever unfolding into eternity. May these codes serve you in the highest and best way for your ascension process.